Dr. Shiva's here. We're really lucky university to be able to have a high-quality event like this. It's not so every day that you get a really well-known, internationally recognized person like Dr. Shiva to come to a small school like ours. And we're really very blessed to have a club like FMLA that's willing to go out of their way and struggle really hard to put something like this together.
So here we have a dynamic speaker and an incredibly accomplished human being. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Vandana Shiva.
But I think mountains are important. Mountains are probably the most important ecosystems on the terrestrial level. Because they do so much for us. You know, they give the protection and the variation that leads to biodiversity. The best biodiversity is in mountain ecosystems, anywhere in the world. And in the mid-60s, actually the problem actually goes much more historic. When the British came to India, they announced that the forests were theirs, even though these were common properties of the forest, of the communities. And in the late 19th century, they started to write forest laws of privatization or take over of village forests. And there was huge resistance. I remember in 1930, I wasn't there, but history has taught me, when Gandhi was making salt in Gujarat to stop the British from monopolizing salt, in our area, communities were trying to reclaim the forests. And Gandhi had called the non-cooperation with the salt laws, the salt satyagraha. The satyagraha means the fight for truth. It is where the idea of civil disobedience starts. And when Gandhi was asked, how did you come up with this idea of satyagraha? He says, I just tried to see how over history India has stayed democratic. And the ultimate right, democratic right, is the right to say no to destruction, injustice, exploitation. So the salt satyagraha in our area was translated into a forest satyagraha. And, you know, when people walked into the forest and said, these are our community forests and we received them from nature and our ancestors, we're not going to let you log them. There were shootings and killings, and 35 people were killed. In 1960s, the forest started to get commercially logged because we had an Indo-China war. China had invaded India in 1962. And as is always thought, you know, everyone said, okay, build roads in the border areas and somehow we'll be more secure. But every road became a place, an artery to siphon out the timber. So logging got accelerated. And 1972, as a result of this accelerated logging, mountains started to slip. Water started to disappear. And that's when, in 1972, women of our region said, you can't cut these trees. They started to blockade. I became a volunteer. I was a physicist, I was studying physics, but every holiday, every vacation, I would be a volunteer for Chipko. It was called Chipko because Chipko means to hug, to embrace. And the women were saying, we'll hug the trees, you'll have to kill us before you kill the trees. And the movement spread village to village. Initially they were arrested, they were ridiculed because they were seen as blocking revenue generation, blocking growth. And I remember in 1977, a group of women came into the forest that was to be logged with lanterns. And the police was there, the officials were there, and they said, you stupid women, why are you holding lanterns during daylight? And they said, not for the sun, but for your ignorance. You don't seem to realize that the main product of these forests is not timber and resin and revenue. It is soil and water and pure air. 1978, we had a major disaster because of logging. And that disaster took floods all the way to Calcutta. A lake was formed in the Ganges, and when it burst, a 4-mile lake, the flood waters was flooding all the way down the Ganges. 78, the government woke up and started to realize women were right in talking about soil and water as the main product of the mountains and the forests. So in 1981, we achieved something amazing. Because of women's actions on the ground, forests are not allowed to be cut in the catchments of the Ganga and the Yamuna. About 1,000 meters, no logging. Didn't happen because some brilliant scientists realized how important the mountains and forests are. But women who were having to collect water and now knew they had to go further. Women who had to collect fodder and fuel as the forest disappeared, they had to walk further. Knew exactly what the relationship between forest and water was. Because of my involvement with CHIPCO, I used to write for them, I used to document for them, and as I often say, the village women know so much more than I do. The only thing is they don't speak English and they don't draw graphs. And in today's world, those are the two indicators of knowledge, and they're not. The woman of Garhwal in the Himalayas, the women know so much more about the mountains, the water, the forest. But just because they only spoke their local dialect, the officials said ignorant women. So I started to take their knowledge and turn it into graphs, turn it into English reports, and I called it counter-expertise. There was expertise that was dominant. What did the logging industry know? How to cut trees. But did the logging industry know what a standing tree does for an ecosystem? No, they don't. Because they're not. Exploitation sciences don't teach what the relationships are. And just as the mining industry was trying to tell us that beheading mountains was scientific forestry, I suddenly find mountaintop removal is high science. Take the distinctiveness of mountains and bulldoze them down. Destroy every aquifer, destroy every drainage system, destroy the forests and the soil that give you the water, and destroy the variability that gives you the biodiversity, kill the living ecosystem, and call this mining development. These are graveyards. They are nature's graveyards. They are the graveyards of society. Look at what the mountains give you in their abundance. I don't have to tell you, you come from the area where you see it. These cultures of violence, of monoculture, of consumerism, believe they have the right to destroy everything living on this planet. We need to remember, we don't just have a right, but we have a duty to protect life on Earth. That is our most important role in today's time. Nothing else matters as much.